Assalamu alaikum, this is Megan Wyatt answering your question here at About Islam. So you've been married for 7 years, and pretty much since day one, you've said that your husband has been addicted to marijuana. He hasn't stopped, he's not let it go, and you thought he was going to change when you had your first child, but instead he ended up doing, basically smoking marijuana even more because you weren't around to pester him. And so you're trying to figure out, what's the point of staying with this guy? Is there any reason to stay with him because you can't trust him anymore? He's not going to change. Well, the first thing I think is to understand the nature of addiction. If you're not understanding what an addiction truly is, then you're going to continue to be disappointed by the fact that, he snaps his fingers and you're thinking he's going to change, but he doesn't. A person often struggles to end an addiction by their own willpower. They need a process, they need a system, they need a support network, they need a way to go through a withdrawal period. And more importantly, when you remove something that someone is addicted to, whether that's alcohol, whether that's drugs, whether that's food, whether that's gambling, whatever it may be, you have to understand that the person now has a vacuum in their life. They've never known how to manage their emotions, their stress, their fears, anything that's going on inside of them. They've never known how to manage those things before. Hence the reason there's an addiction in their life. And so if you take that thing away, you still have a man in front of you who doesn't know how to manage life without something he is addicted to, something that he can numb out with, something that he can soften the blows of life with, something that he can turn to and be intimate with emotionally more than he is in his relationship with you, or maybe his child, or his parents, or his friends, or his community. So understanding the nature of addiction, I think, will be step one for you. Do research, go to the bookstore, get some books, read online articles, watch TED Talks, whatever you need to do. First, understand that addictions are beasts and they can't just be given up by most people. They need a process, a system, a support network, and a lot of patience, because they will continue to relapse as they learn how to develop a life without being an addict. And it's a process and it's a journey. So him saying, just give me 2 more weeks, I'm going to quit, I can almost guarantee you, I could be wrong, but I can almost guarantee you that even if he quit for a couple of weeks, he would go back, because he's changing what we call first order changes. He's changing the surface, but he's not changing himself. And so for this to get better permanently for you as a couple, for him to be a father, to your child, he has to go through second order changes. He needs support and help to grow and heal and develop himself so that he no longer needs to rely on outside things to manage his life. So I hope that makes sense a little bit. So in other words, as much as you have every right to be upset, and as much as you have every right to be disappointed, and as much as you have every right to be angry about the fact that, he's not able to change because you're so upset by this, because this isn't what you expected when you got married, you have to understand that by asking him to just change and just quit, you're ultimately setting him up to fail. He needs more than that. Now, the second question is, okay, so how do you get him to get help? How do you get him to go do something? Well, first of all, he has to want to change. He has to understand that he is not able to stop. He has to recognize that it's interfering with his marriage, his personal life, his well-being. And he has to be able to see those consequences, and those consequences have to be grave enough for him to think, you're right, it's worth me changing for. And so when a person is wrapped up in their addiction, they're often not thinking of anybody else but themselves. So yeah, there's a selfish component to addictions. But if you love him and you want to keep this relationship together, if you want it to have a chance, then the next step is helping him come to terms with the fact that he is hurting you, and he's going to be hurting your family if he doesn't change. And letting him, sit with the heaviness of these consequences. And then being a form of support to him to go and get help, to talk to a therapist, to go to an addictions counselor, whatever it is he needs to do so that his life doesn't need to rely on some external crutch for him to get by. And again, it's going to be a process and a journey. So should you stay? Should you be with him? That always is going to be up to you. But if there's something you can do to keep your family together, and he has other noble and good qualities worth you fighting for, then fight for them. Maybe he's addicted to marijuana, but does he take care of you otherwise? Is he kind? Is he loving? Does he provide for the family? Is he a good dad? Are there other areas where he's striving? You mentioned, his iman is low and he's not praying. You married a person, and this is who he is. This is who he is when you married him. And even though you're trying to change and grow and take care of your iman, he's not had that external motivation yet. So this is the person that he is right now. He's not focused on his prayers. He sounds like a person ultimately who's really, really struggling to get by in life, and he doesn't know how to thrive. So he's just surviving. And the addiction is sort of the evidence of that. So rather than a mommy approach of shaming him, scolding him, telling him what to do, because that hasn't worked for you, it's just brought you more frustration, maybe consider turning to him as you would a friend if you found out a friend was struggling. If you found out one of your best friends had given up on Salah, and you found out one of your best friends was now smoking marijuana, and you found out one of your best friends was having problems in their marriage, maybe what tone would you take with them and bring that to your husband? And again, this is optional. Do you have to do this? No. You don't have to do any of it. But if you want to see if there's a way to turn things around, if you want to see if there's a way to reach this person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in your life, then changing how you look at him, changing how you approach the situation, being more knowledgeable and equipped with understanding of the reality on the ground, perhaps will give you a new angle to work with, a new way to reach him. And again, if anything else, do this for your child, because it's still their dad. This is their dad. So again, the marijuana addiction is there. My most important question is, otherwise, does he treat you well? Is he kind? Is his character good? And if so, then again, you don't have to do that. But if you want there to be a chance, educate yourself, reach out for help. You can even start with yourself. Reach out and work with a counselor who specializes in, couples where there is one person who has an addiction. Reach out for yourself to get support, because this is a journey, and it's already been a very long, difficult journey for you so far these 7 years. But you can't continue to do things the way you've done them and expect different results. So I'm hopeful for you that at least starting with yourself, the education and the support can help you figure out how to turn to him differently, invite him to healing, inshallah, and perhaps there'll be a corner that is turned here soon. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease your affairs and assist both of you in finding the resources needed to heal and grow and develop. Assalamu alaikum.